Hello everybody and welcome back to the main action of the snooker table number 1. This time, once again, it is the world number 1 providing us with some more action, hopefully for himself, to try and progress in towards the quarter-final stage. As for now, he has to face Guy Wilson there, the world number 17, after, well, the pair already faced off against each other at the Wuhan Open last 16, and that time, it was, of course, Guy Wilson that managed to come out on top and book himself what would later come out as the runner-up spot there, with a clash against Xiaogdun. Judd is still yet to feature in the quarterfinal ranking event this season, after the only major success in the campaign came in the Shanghai Masters, where he did manage to reach the quarterfinal, to be fair to him. But ever since, it's all been a bit of a downhill battle there for Judd, and he'll hope to turn a page on that today and try and claim the revenge there on Guy Wilson. It's a nice little break-off shot there to get us underway. And, well, it's a bit of a mistake there straight away from Wilson, because, you know, he was in a nice little position there to try and apply some pressure on Trump. And in the end, it's going to be the world number 1 trying to apply the pressure, with him having a nice little successful shot there. Get Gresher and Kevin already joining in the action. And lovely to see and know the fact as well that finally the broadcasters have actually managed to put two brilliant matchups, not next to each other, but one after another. And we're going to have Si Jiahui up against John Higgins feature. Very much after this match is going to be coming to an end. We've got some very exciting battles on our hands. We've got Chip Chowno against Jack Lisowski. We've got Sean Murphy against Jordan Brown. We've got Mark Allen featuring after winning another decider yesterday against Ben Wollaston. It's 7 out of 7 there for him in the Home Nation Series, but 2 out of 2 there in terms of mistakes. And Michael, the legend of the chat, there is back, and come on Gary there. And all he has to do is try and repeat basically the same performance that sort of Elias Lesser did against Judd at the English Open in the last 16, or similar to the one that Wilson has produced himself when he managed to beat Trump after only leading on one of those occasions, and when he actually mattered. So Trump is underway there with a nice little part of the red, and he's actually going to be lined up on the pink there in towards the left middle. He has some great games there. I can see the Wilson, Kyron Wilson, number 1 fan, because you certainly was worried there that Kyron would have been knocked out in the round 1 there against Oliver Lyons. He managed to overcome all the struggles as Trump gets himself lined up for another awkward red there, and managed to defeat Ryan Day as well. So he's now going to be facing with Shego Kyong later in today to potentially set up a clash with a quarter-final meeting, which is going to be a rare occasion for Wilson as well. You know, he's managed to win Shanghai Masters, a tournament that I previously mentioned, that sort of Trump had a semi-successful campaign, but ever since only had a 1 quarter-final appearance. That, of course, came with Ronnie O'Sullivan at the Saudi Arabian Masters, as Trump finally gets himself in the prime position for these reds. Nice little position that he's got up ahead of him. He's got a red to try and take in towards the left corner and try and follow up with a black into the opposite side of the corner. You'll have 2 more reds to try and line up into the same corner pocket if he gets the cue ball in behind those. And now as he got himself 15 points clear, he can start to try and run away from Guy Wilson. Will be very important for him to try and replicate the performance that he's managed, especially in the early stage, up against Jackson Page. I think you could actually compare the 2 players. You know, similar sort of styles and similar sort of performances so far at the Home Nation Series. Both of them have managed to reach the quarterfinal stage recently, with Wilson being in the semi-final of the Xi'an Grand Prix as Chomp there tries to develop the bunch of reds, cannons the cue ball in towards the pink, which was occupying the blue spot at that time. I think he can try and go for the blue there, try and get the cue ball down the table, but the problem is, so the camera is suggesting that he's got a plan to play for, but this is a difficult technique for him to try and do, for the simple reason of, you know, he's not perfect on this blue, and the cue ball's going to be pacey there. So Trump decides to take all the pace off the cue ball, but he's going to finish dead on the cushion here. So needs that plan to come to his rescue now, really. And he needs to try to get the cue ball on the black here with surely no way back for the blue or the pink. You need to use the backspin for it, which is not available there for Chump because he ended up right on this cushion. So play through the shot there, which is not going to be easy anyway. And make sure you got the pot in first and then try and find the path for the cue ball. And what a shot this is, by far the best that we've seen throughout this break there from Chump. Brilliant shot there in terms of getting two little sort of cannons there off the reds on the way of the cue ball to get it lined up perfectly on the black, and now in the prime position to take this frame in the single visit to the table. And you know, it was two early invitations there from Wilson. One was refused by Trump to try and make sure he's going to be lined up on something better, and in the end it looks like the second, well, at least he's going to get him 40 points plus here if he gets this blue, and he's got a couple of more reds to try and line the cue ball on, as he just has a little look to see if that's going to be available there to him. Well, you can try and send the cue ball in towards the bunch, to be fair to him, but I don't think that's going to get him too far up the score sheet, based on the fact that, you know, you can't really risk on sending the cue ball into those reds if you've got at least one or two that you can still try and play for, because if you try and eliminate those, inevitably that will bring up more room for you to develop the other reds. So far there's two clusters of two reds that are preventing the other three reds. They're actually going in towards the left or right corner. So let's see what the outcome is going to be for Chomp. And it is going to be to try and play into the red there. And I mean, he's played this one absolutely perfectly, because you basically cannon the cue ball into the only red that he actually could have had himself lined up on. But in the end, it's a perfect outcome there for Chomp, as he gets himself a red in towards the left corner, pretty much a free one. And now just running away with it, having all the reds at his disposal. Three more in towards the right corner to follow after this shot, as he's got one lined up into the left corner as well. So having all shots to choose from is Judd Chomp, and now can try and apply some more pressure on the break building skills. Make sure he's going to get the maximum of table time here. Gets the cue ball for the blue this time around. So, of course, compromised by the fact that the pink was out of position as well. Had to go on the blue spot a couple of shots ago. And now Trump will only need a couple of more reds to try and eliminate, with 83 points on the table. His gap is going to be 56 points. So, nice little start there by Trump. But underrun for this red. You know, some of the cue action still doesn't seem to be just as smooth. Any big breaks in the tournament yet? Nothing that I've heard of. I've seen a 1-4-4 from Chipchayo in the early stages, but I don't think I've seen anything more than that. By the way, if you expect some big breaks, you better watch Jack Lisowski against Chipchayo, because that match is going to be over in less than 30 minutes. Literally, I'm telling you. If you've seen the performance of Chipchayo against Mark Davis, or you've seen Jack Lisowski campaign against Mark Selby yesterday, that is going to be an absolute cracker. And, you know, if you go for a toilet break, make sure you do that before the frame starts. You know, because you make yourself a cup of tea and the frame and the match is going to be over in favour of any one of those two to get themselves into the quarterfinals for the first time this season. As Trump gets himself to a nice little position fast. I mean, definition of rapid. Certainly furious if any of them is going to lose it, but whoever wins it, it's going to be a nice little performance already going into the second tournament of the Home Nations. We're already down to the two tables format, by the way, because it's such a unique tournament, even of the Home Nations. We don't even start off the 7 days trip to the tour. It's going to be hosted of 8 days every single year. There, the only of the 4 Home Nations tournaments. And Trump is now running away with it in the first frame. Certainly getting the frame ball over and done with. And now let's see if he can entertain the fans to a little censure break. He only will need those remaining 4 reds, which are all in decent position there. A couple of them, you know, will require perfect cue ball control, to be fair. Nice little shot there by Trump. All games played today to bring tomorrow's quarters. Yep, absolutely. So we're going to have quarterfinals on a Friday, which is tomorrow, and then we're going to have semi-finals Saturday And then Sunday is going to be the final time. So far, Judd will certainly would like to feature in that final. We're still having the world number 1, 2, 6, and 8 there. With Judd, Karen Wilson, John Higgins, and Mark Allen all still being in the contention. The new number 9 there, Sean Murphy, has managed to defeat Elliot Slessor yesterday in a brilliant match as well. He's going to be facing Jordan Brown, the home favourite. So that's going to be a very interesting match. Basically, all of those matches are going to be entertaining, you would think. You know, Karen Wilson himself has got a little bit of a challenge to try and get himself through this stage. And right now, the only task that Judd will have ahead of himself is try and get a century break on the board. Still 134 potential total clearance available, but had to get in behind the red and didn't really do that. So unless it's possible in towards the yellow pocket, it's going to be 99 points of a break that he can finish on. He can take this red. I think it is possible in towards the middle, but this is such a difficult angle there for him to try and drop it. But when there's 100 century pounds bonus on the board, Judd will make sure that he gets this red in, and it's a wonderful shot there for him to keep that 1-3-2 clearance on. See world champion out again. Yeah, as I say, he's not really a fan of a short-term format, is he? I was very surprised that he didn't feature at the Wuhan Open. Massively, you know, lost out at early stages. I think we'll have to see what is going to be up towards in the International Championship as a little build-up in towards the Champion of Champions. And I don't think he's going to feature in the Riyadh season, but he is the world champion, so I'll have to double-check on that. And then it's going to be the UK Championship, of course. The Triple Crown event that he's managed to win previously in 2021. So he needs the Masters crown to try and be the Triple Crown winner of all 3 major events. And right now, Judd is running away with it. And what a perfect start it has been. That pink to black transition is probably just resonates the fact that he's been playing some beautiful snooker here. A 1-3-2 of a break. And what a performance from Judd out there. Guy Wilson is still yet to get on the board. And after 2 early misjudgments there on the safety play, Judd said, I'm going to take this matter into my own hands, and I have to make sure that the Wuhan Open disaster ain't going to be repeated there for me. And I'm going to get myself off to a perfect start and lead by 1-0. Unique triple group. Yep, it is. And very few people have done that previously. But, you know, I think of the major upsets of the tournament, obviously we didn't have Williams, O'Sullivan or Robertson feature for different reasons. Then we had Ding Junhui not feature as well, which, you know, was surprising because he's missed out on a couple of those late events himself. Then we had Mark Selby knocked out by Jack Lisowski. And then we had Zhao Xingtong eliminated from the major names. You could also throw the names like Barry Hawkins and Chris Waitley eliminated at the early stages. But they wouldn't be just so high profiles of names there. With we're having Tom Ford and Yuan Sijun been playing on table number 1. So we do technically still have table number 3 there, but I don't think we're going to have any of the action on here because the match is going to be taken in pairs of 2 there. So one at 1 o'clock, one at 3 o'clock, one at 7 o'clock, and one at 9 o'clock for good measure. Selby has been disappointing lately too. I think he's played alright against Lisowski yesterday, but I think Jack was such a machine in terms of his pot success, has been brilliant. He was struggling a little bit with positional play, but apart from that, I think he's been really solid. But the thing about Jack is, he's always solid when it comes to the first, second and third rounds, but he doesn't seem to be so solid when it comes to the quarter-final stage or something. He's still, of course, yet to win a ranking event of his career. Some people think that he's probably one of the best players to never do that. You know, he has to try and use those chances. You know, he's going to be, I think he's in the lower side of the draw. He's going to be he's in the top side of the draw. So he's going to have to face Karen Wilson or Shegon Yon in the quarterfinal. So that's going to be far from easy. But at least he avoids the meeting with Judd Trump, which hasn't been so kind to him previously. Now Guy Wilson to get himself underway in the second frame, hopefully. as he now breaks off the bunch of reds and does it quite nicely in terms of having those reds spread out quite well. Neither going to cover the black, and the cue ball position is quite good for him as well. I was always going to fancy Trump on this one because I think he rarely loses matches to the same people back to back there, especially with his sort of professional record against Guy Wilson being 4 wins and only a single defeat there, which came in the Wuhan Open. He won against him at the English Open once in 2020. That was their only home nations encounter up to this point. And also the fact that, he lost out on the decider to Elias Lesser. He lost out to Guy Wilson at Wuhan Open in the last 16. He's lost out to Oliver Lyons in the last 32. I just think it's been such a disappointing start to the season for Trump. And, the way he's come out and said that this is one of his favourite venues, you would expect him to be starting to try and play quite well here. So being hard on himself, he'll come. But yeah, I think the thing about Mark Selby is the second you write him off, he'll just perform better than you ever think he will. People forget that he's a 4-time world champion, winning back-to-back titles. Only the second player to do that in this millennium after Ronnie O'Sullivan. To do that in 2012 and 2013. Mark Selby has managed to do it 3 years later in 16-17 season. So just having a look for Wilson as he's got the cue ball in behind the brown to make sure that you can see a little gap to get the cue ball down the tail. I don't think he can see enough of those reds to try and play a safety out of them. So maybe getting the cue ball down the table there and doing a cushion first shot, which is not going to be easy anyway with him being so close to the right hand cushion there. So has to be mindful of the risks that are going to be presenting themselves. And just try and send the cue ball with a little bit of power, but control power in towards the bunch. Has to make sure that he's going to be hard enough to actually run there for the cue ball. And he's finished a mile off there, but ultimately not 2 miles off, which would have allowed Judd to take a red on in towards the right corner. And I think Trump will take the position from here. And just as I say that, he goes back to his seat, and it's going to be attempt number 2 there for Wilson. Trump obviously feeling that he can get a better position out of it, or potentially some more points of a couple of more foul shots. Of course, the important thing for Wilson is try and make sure that he's going to be off to a great start, which is something that he's managed to do up against Judd at Wuhan Open. He managed to keep up the pace with him. Wasn't winning up until the last frame there. But ultimately, he was always there or thereabout. Never leaving a gap then more than 1 frame against Trump in that time. Similar thing to Elias Lesser and his performance up against the world number 1, who is going to be the prime favourite for the tournament now, barring Karen Wilson. And of course, the draw side has probably been split quite fairly there. Trump is going to have a massive game on his hand should he get through Gary Wilson here, with him having to face either Si Jiahui or John Higgins at the quarterfinal. That's probably going to be the match of the tournament, at least to that point, as the referee still tries to re-establish the position of the cue ball. It's a little bit of a delay. Is the quarterfinals best of 9? Yes, so the quarterfinals is going to be best of 9. And then we're going to have the semi-final best of 11. And then we're going to have the final best of 17 or first to 9. Whatever you want to call it. So that's going to be the first time that we're going to see the sort of best of 9 format in this tournament. So the line seems to be a lot better from Wilson. But it seems to be a lot more pacey. He doesn't want it to be the case. And he may have actually left a shot there for Trump. Didn't give him 4 foul points there, but I mean, he obviously doesn't even consider the shot into the right corner, so the red is going to be in the way of another red there. And then the rest shot that could have been available there for him, clearly deciding that it's not worth the risk, and just send the cue ball up the table very shortly there. Try and cannon the cue ball off the bunch of those reds and try and spread those out as wide as he can. So for now, for Trump, very important for me, from my point of view, is that that we see Judd being composed and just taking his time on those shots ever since, he was making those last 16 matches, and even in the encounter that I mentioned against Oliver Lyons at the Saudi Masters, he was just taking those reckless long shots there, which sometimes he will make, but more times than not, you'll actually miss those and, give away some easy chances there. Something that is done against Jackson Page and Anthony McGill already, but ultimately was just too clinical in the later stages of the matches. And managed to get himself, with this encounter, set up with Gary Wilson. So after careful consideration, he just tries to get the cue ball in behind the yellow there to show only the right-hand side of the table to Wilson. In the end, it looks like it's going to be enough there for him. And he's actually found a really nice path for the cue ball to finishing behind the green. And just going to have a little look to see for Trump if you can see that edge of the left-hand side of that red just under the pink, because that will make his life a lot easier in terms of finding a safety shot to try and get the cue ball up the table once again there. And of course, if the answer is no to that question, you'll have to probably go for a cushion first shot himself. Mark Allen only seems to come alive on last frame result. This is what I'm saying, is he's had 7 deciders in the Home Nation Series already this season, and he's won all 7 of them. Of course, winning the English Open, where he had deciders up against, I don't think I'm going to remember all the people, but he certainly had deciders against Jack Jones, Ben Wollaston, Joey Long, Ding Zhuwei there, and he's managed to come out on top of all of them. It was a really difficult match there for him, up against Ben Wollaston. And, Trump was having a bit of a risky shot to take on. He's trying to basically hit the bunch of reds full ball there to try and roll the cue ball up towards them, obviously realizing that the black was covering the right corner pocket for Wilson to try and take it as a cut. But ultimately this time he's going to give the initiative away there to Wilson, as he just manages to get by the blue and get himself another perfect safety shot there, getting the yellow to cover up all of the left-hand side of the table, which is going to be very important, with this part probably being the only one that can get you somewhat safe. And, talk about Gary Wilson, we spoke about Jump a lot. Shang Bin Yu match has been such a test there for him. He was only the first round, the last 64, but he basically was one shot away, maybe 1 millimeter away from losing the entire match there, because Shang Bin Yu had a match ball, which he missed a couple of times on the brown. And ultimately, Gary Wilson managed to go on a clearance of 22 points to get all 4 remaining colours and get himself booked on with their clash with Martin O'Donnell. Yes, the guy had it well. He certainly did. And I don't think he's going to be happy with himself anyway. He lost to O'Sullivan at the Saudi Masters earlier in the similar fashion, where he could have had the match wrapped up himself. And ultimately just probably lacks a bit of experience and a bit of a clinical finish there to him. Something that we're still yet to see from Trump himself, really, in his performances, especially at the later stages. Still being a bit raw this position now, with players just playing back and forward now, trying to roll the cue ball in towards the reds. And it doesn't seem like the position is going to get any better, with something like 11 reds being underneath the pink and all in a line that you're not really going to have any of them possible. Schoolboy error, yeah, missing that brown in towards the right corner was a joke there, to be honest. I thought he got down for that shot way too quickly anyway, but he should have been better in it. But to be fair, that way we wouldn't have had this wonderful matchup of Trump against Wilson. Should he go all the way to the final, he could still face another Wilson there, with Kyron, the world number 2, being successful yesterday against Ryan Day. And has got a couple of matchups to go through himself. And, the fact that we're going to have at least one of the Chepchiono or Jack Lisowski in that quarterfinal stage, to say at least, he actually excites me. And Trump finally goes to try and send the cue ball into the reds with the intention to spread those out. And Leaves a chance there for Wilson potentially towards the right corner. And the little chuckle there from Trump, clearly realising that he could have played the shot a bit better. And that couple of centimetres of the cue ball in between the cushion could be very important now, because Wilson, to be fair, doesn't seem to be too encouraged on taking the red on. Yeah, Jack needs to get a win. He does, but I think it's probably the match that you can't really predict anything. And I still haven't seen the odds of it, but you would expect Jack to be the favourite, with him being still a higher ranking player, but I just think it's going to be whoever turns up in a better mood, and whoever's going to get the first frame on the board is going to be a very important factor there. As Wilson now takes the red on, misses it, and leaves the same red away there to Chomp. So a little bit of a calamity there from Wilson. As, Chomp now has got a wide selection of shots to try and play. And it was all about do or die there for Wilson, because if he makes the red in, he probably gets himself on the black and it was a great chance. But instead, this great chance is going to be presented to Judd Chomp there, which has got all of those reds available, which he only split up on the previous shot, by the way. Remember when I said finally he had an intention to spread the reds out, and in the end, only one shot later, he's going to get a perfect shot at all of those reds, and certainly enough of those in free play to try and get himself into some of a points cushion and have those to his name. As he gets the cue ball up the table there, clearly with the intention to try and play a red in towards the left corner, left middle. I think he was aiming there for the red into the left middle, but ultimately I think he ran away a bit short there. So the red that I mentioned in towards the left corner might actually come itself. So Chomp just finding himself a bit of no man's land. He's basically got 4 reds available, but neither of them are going to be perfect. You know, you can't really see the red that Wilson has missed previously. That is very close to the right corner. So he just has a little look there and seems to be in between all of them. But in the end, I think he'll just play with a little bit of swerve there to get that red in towards the right corner, and just has to control the cue ball though to get himself lined up for the black, which, to be fair to him, he's managed to do nicely. So still on the break and still very much as the dominating force here. About to go 20 points clear. As the other table seems to be very, very active there. But, you know, he was about to go 20 points clear. In the end, he had to get the black in for that to happen. And he didn't do that. You know, I did say he was alright for the black, but the cut was still a bit wider there for him than, you know, it could have been. And in the end, it's going to be a chance presented to Guy Wilson this time around. I was just about to say that he still didn't get a pot on. Well, with the black not covering the entire pocket, would very much expect him to do that. Ooh, just about. And he made the mess of that, you know. He made the mess of that because he could have had himself lined up on a perfect shot there. But he caught way too much of the front jaw with the red. In the end, he cannoned the red into the black there. So the red dropped in, but it brought the black into an awkward spot there for him, and he missed it. I don't know why he played it in the first place. And yeah, bit of an awful start there from Wilson. And Jack favourite, yeah, 11-8 for Jeff. Thank you very much. Thank you, appreciate that. Yeah, as I say, I think it's fair because he is the higher ranking seed, but you know, the fact that it is only 11-8 there for Chip Chaya just shows you that, you know, everyone realises that it could be anyone's game. Now, if you focus on table number 1 here, Chomp basically can go for a shot very similar to the one that Wilson didn't really intend to play and try and get the cue ball into that red, send the red in towards the cushion and the jaw of the pocket, and cannon it off the black in towards the right corner. Of course, it's impossible to control where the black is going to go, but also the gap that Wilson had was a lot wider than the one that Judd has right now. So we're just having a look to see the exact spot where he wants this red to go into. I don't really think it's an easy shot, and I also don't think it's going to be the one that he's going to be rewarded for, unless he plays this one with power, which is going to make it even more difficult to judge. And with the approach, clearly he's going to play it with little power. And in the end, it's a brilliant shot there. I thought he caught the black on the way in, but Chomp managing to judge the trajectory and the pace perfectly. Let's have a look if he actually caught the black on the way in. Yeah, he did, but he was just about as minor contact as he can get. So the red could just about squeeze in towards the pocket. And now Trump will get himself on for a chance number 2 in this frame. Wilson was gifted a brilliant chance as he should have taken the red into the right corner more confidently. Well, we'll see Ronnie next at the China International Championship. He should play a qualifier there against Alan Taylor. But you only know from Ronnie, he's very busy watching Snooker 900 now with the new platform that he's managed to launch. And he was on social media yesterday saying that, has some great matches there to play. But I think for Ronnie, he's going to have to be... Well, he couldn't really participate in the Home Nation Series anyway. He was withdrawn from the English Open quite early, as it's a brilliant shot there by Chom to develop even more reds. And now he's spoiled for choice, really. Can take a red into any corner of the table there, whether it is the left, right, middle, or left, right corner there. As he's going to want the one in towards the right corner and play the cue ball on towards the black there. Unless there's a massive error in the positional sense, or even bigger error in terms of the potting perspective there for Chomp. It's going to be another frame that is going to go his way. He's already 36 points clear with 99 on the table. And it looks like the gap is only going to get bigger there for him. As this time around, it's going to be a red to take on in towards the right middle. Try and get onto the cue ball and try and send it in towards the black there. Nice shot there once again from Chomp. So gets himself 37 points clear. And in terms of the reds available, he's got at least 2 more that he can take on into either one of those 4 main corner pockets on the lower part of the table. And then he's got a couple more that he can try and run in behind there for a shot in towards the left middle. So once again there, the pair of Tom Ford against Jan Sejun, you have to remember one of them will make it into the quarterfinal. Once again, by far the best result there either one would have had in this season's campaign. Jan Sejun was facing off against Judd previously at the round of 32 at the English Open. And of course that time, it was still Judd that managed to came out victorious. Chomp wants to get this being away from end tournament too long. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I was very impressed and very surprised with his interview after I think it was the first round against McGill, where he sort of said, a little bit of a wait there because I thought he missed the red in towards the right middle, but he's still right on that. And now 53 points clear. And yeah, he was just saying that he really loves this venue. It's always been very high on the rankings there for him. And, he wants to put the end of a bad run now at this stage, but to do that he needs to be playing better shots than this because he run himself a bit out of position there. He can still take this on in towards the right middle, but this is a really difficult shot there, difficult to judge, and he's going to catch the front jaw there. So not running away with it too soon. Still, the good news there for him is that he finally managed to sort of not do all the hard work and leave all the easy bits for his opponent. If he makes the red in, he's probably frame over there with this next black. But instead, it's still 58 points of advantage there. All the players love Island value, absolutely. I mean, the size and the noise of the crowd was absolutely staggering, where you could see the home favourite, Jordan Brown, knock out the world champion, Chao Xington there. You're going to have Mark Allen as the defending Home Nations champion, doing that against Joel Yulon. And of course, Joel Yulon himself is still in this campaign after beating David Grace yesterday. He's going to have to come up against Ali Carter, the player that was very frustrated there with himself, where he could have had a 4-0 win there against Jimmy Robertson. And in the end, had to come down to the decider once again there. So, had a couple of those. And it's going to be 4 points given away there to Wilson. With John this time around being on the receiving end of a snooker that I didn't think was going to be a problem there. But obviously Tom just thinking about not giving up a way for Wilson to get himself on the board now in terms of scoring some points. Still having 75 points on the table with 54 now being the gap. It's still more than possible for Wilson to try and recover. But obviously, who will win this match in the poll? 76% have gone for Trump, as he is the favourite by pretty much sort of 75% of the vote. And from the second time around, I mean, he gets the red in, but even though he developed a couple of more towards the cushion, I don't think Trump will be happy with himself. He leaves the red on there for Wilson in towards the left middle. This is one of those shots that if Wilson misses, and he's going to miss it by an absolute margin, by an absolute mile there, he's going to cost him the frame. And those types of shots are going to cost him the match now, because he can't afford to be doing that. He couldn't really afford it when the match has started, and he certainly can't afford to do it when he's facing a 2-0 gap now to his name. As Trump will surely eliminate this red, get himself lined up on the blue, and be very close to the frame ball area. In fact, the next red and colour combination is going to get him over that line. He's already 55 points clear. So technically, as he goes 60 points clear, this red is going to be the frame ball. And the next colour is just going to reassure that Wilson won't be coming back to the table in this frame here. And it's one of the easiest frame balls that you'll see Trump actually pot there. So waste there from Wilson. Once again, leaving Trump a gap there to try and run away into. And a 2-0 lead was not something that I predicted. I predicted Trump to win the match, but I thought it would be close at the beginning of this stage, because I thought this was going to be the time for Wilson to try and do the damage before Trump is actually managed to get up to his speed, and it probably hasn't still been near his best as he gets very close towards the double, and ultimately he's now 66 points clear with 59 on the table. So Wilson should play on. I mean, it's still 2 snookers. Probably if Trump makes that double, he's going to be the end of a frame number 2. So far, it's been quite quick there. 41 minutes for the ending of the first and pretty much the second frame as well. So Wilson then decides to go for attempt of a double, gets the cue ball on towards the black, but misses that one. So didn't have too many errors to try and leave there for Trump. Ultimately, a shot that you could say it was worth the risk, but in the end, he was a mile off of that double. And Trump himself is going to try and attempt the red in towards the yellow pocket. And he's going to miss that one, though. Don't even think the shot was on, to be fair. But, of course, Trump will know better than I do. That leaves away red now for Wilson to try and take in towards the right middle. Of course, at this stage, he only has to sort of get all the reds with high-value colours, but the cue ball does seem to be pacey. So it's going to be awkward on this black there. So right now, this black will get him 13 points, or 58 behind, with 61 on the table. So he has to make sure he does it with the black there, where you'll need 2 snookers to tie. But, of course, if he misses the black, which he just did, it's going to be the end of a frame there. So frame conceded by Wilson, and it is now Judd Trump with a 2-0 lead after Guy Wilson seems to be misfiring here. And Trump seems to be back to his form and now trying to apply some more pressure on Guy Wilson. He now leads 2 frames to 0, and he's only 2 frames away from making his first quarter-final of the ranking events in the entire season. And meanwhile, Tom Ford and Johan Sejunov have already finished their first opening 2 frames. And it's now Tom Ford on the break of 53 points to try and get himself a 2-1 lead. And by the way, I think Tom Ford had a very underrated campaign so far. Managed to come away with quite a comfortable win there against Chris Wakelin yesterday. But ultimately, it was just a bit consistent there, which, you don't often say those words about Tom Ford. Of course, he didn't have to participate in the first round because of the walkover that he got over Marco Fu. But recently, he's been playing well in the English Open. Lost out to Barry Hawkins, to be fair to him, but managed to get himself into the International Championships as well. Tom Ford on form is difficult to beat. I mean, it is. And I think Hawkins and Wakelin will tell you that for absolute free. And, there was a reason. Of course, it's a bit of a lottery, the snooker shootout, but there's still a reason that he's managed to win that tournament. Even though it's a lottery, it's still not like you're trying to lose that on purpose. And for him to come all the way to win that, not quite a ranking event. I think it is going to be classed as a ranking event this time around for the first time. So let's see if he's going to be successful in his title defense as well. But until then, he's still got a second Home Nations tournament of the season to try and finish off here. As Judd there seems to be trying to get himself back in this frame. Still having a couple of issues there on his way, but it's currently on the break there with still more than enough points for him to try and catch up there to, nearly said Gary Wilson, to Tom Ford there. And of course, from Wilson's point of view, from Gary Wilson's point of view, you have to really assess the performance that you've had against Trump. And you have to realise that if you don't win frame number 3, you may as well not bother turning up for this match because, you should have played a lot better in the second frame. It was a flawless display from Trump in the first frame, but, there's not a lot you can actually say there to Wilson's defence. Had to be a lot better than what he actually managed to produce. And in the end, let's see if he's going to be able to turn a page there in frame number 3. And for now, it is his turn to try and have a go at this red potentially in towards the right corner. The thing about Wilson is, sometimes when he's not playing well, you'll try and absolutely send it all. And sometimes it's not going to be the worst or the best thing for him to try and do. Yeah, the Madness Masters is not too sure what you mean by that. So, oh, you mean that the Masters is not actually classed as a ranking event? I mean, if that's what you mean, I think that's absolutely mad, because I think I heard that once or twice there, but I never actually thought that was the case. Ranking, yeah, I mean, that is mad to me. I heard that before because it was like a bit of invitational and it was like only the best players and there's not really a qualifying match to it, but I just think it's absolutely mad for you to have that as a triple crown, but not a ranking event. Yeah, well, that's mad, that is. There's Chom there with a nice little shot to send the Wilson into a little bit of trouble. This time, Chomp is going to have touching ball himself to try and send the cue ball up the table there. And have himself lined up for a much better display in terms of the next safety battle. With him having the front foot on the pedal once again there. Still trying to get the cue ball in behind the yellow, but in the end, his priority task would have been to try and cover up the 2 reds closest to the right hand side of the table. And it certainly has been. Mission successful there, mission completed. At that time of asking, Wilson only having the left-hand side to try and deal with, and that goes with some risks there, and I think Wilson will realise those risks because he just led another red there for Chomp, but this is one of those really awkward ones because I think it's very straight, it's very close to the cushion, and it's probably the one that you have to take on, but I've seen players sort of miss this shot, and that eventually has cost him the frame there. But I've seen players do that, and, let's see if Judd Trump is going to have something else to say about it. Not this time. He's going to miss it. He's managed to do really well there in terms of getting the cue ball off the table. But that red was always going to be out of control, and in the end, it's going to be a chance to Wilson once again. With the rest shot, try and get it in towards the yellow pocket. Misses it, though. Yeah, certainly misfiring and playing dreadfully so far. His highest break of a single point probably says it all there. 3 chances he's had in the last 2 frames that, I think I could have taken at least one of those. Probably run himself out of position on the next colour. But anyway, absolutely unacceptable for the player of this calibre to miss missing a red in towards the yellow pocket. Now leaves away the same red there for Chomp. So good news is he doesn't have to take a rest with it. But the bad news is it's a difficult shot there to try and navigate his way in towards the pocket because it's going to be very narrow. But Chomp surely has to be feeling really good here in terms of his opponent misfiring badly. And, if he was feeling good, he's going to be feeling a bit worse now because they missed the red by a mile as well. So, still 2 players playing far from their best snooker. Ultimately, Chomp still managing to win frames, which is going to be the most important aspect of the game, especially in such a short format matches. This time it doesn't look like it's going to be a red given away there to Wilson. And, you know, if it was, it certainly is not in the position for Wilson that is currently out of form to try and take that on. But, you know, if he chooses to play a safety shot, he should try and do it better than what he's actually managed to do here. May actually left the red there for Chomp to take on in towards the right corner. The one that he just freed up previously. Come on, Wilson. Yeah, he's made the mess of that. I think that red is available. I think the thing about Chomp is he's just having a look to see if he's going to have black to play for. I'll be very surprised if he doesn't take this on. And doesn't look like he is actually taking this on. So unless he spotted a plan there, he has. He's missed it though. So, sort of a sequence of errors there, two from each player. Yeah, in the end, it was always going to be heading in towards the right-hand cushion and the jaw of the pocket. This time it's going to be a lot more straightforward of a chance for Wilson. So if you don't take this red, surely it's going to be a massive problem there for you. But he doesn't take the red on. I mean, this is a massive problem for Wilson. He is unraveling and melting like an ice cream on a sunny day there. You know, this is one of the easiest shots that you're actually going to miss as a professional. You don't have to do anything with the cue ball. It's going to just naturally go in towards the ball colours. But yeah, if Wilson is missing shots like that, he may as well pack it now. Because 3 shots realistically that he's missed have been absolutely unacceptable there. The one in the second frame where he made the mess of that black. The one that he's missed with a red shot in towards the yellow pocket. And now the one that, you know, he sort of made the mess of in towards the right corner. And of course, Trump is not going to make the same mistake 3 times in a row. And all of a sudden, it's the world number 1 that's going to have prime position to his name. How about his disposal? Probably, if you talk about, you know, players having 1 foot in the quarterfinal, I think he's got 1 foot and a half now in the semi-final. In the quarterfinal, sorry. He'll have to work a bit harder to get himself into the semis yet. But right now, having all reds to choose from. And, I mean, technically, we still haven't potted a red up until this point. So, I mean, when I say the position is really nice, it actually is really nice there. So, we could see a very high value of a break here. GG's. Well, it's a bit too early to say that. You know, it's never GG's until it actually is over in snooker. I've seen, as I've said numerous times, I've seen Ronnie O'Sullivan, the best of the best there, playing one of these best performances of the 2022 and 2025 there, up against Salgadon and the champion of champions. You know, the tournament that Ronnie was always going to turn up for. And I mean, if Chomp makes mistakes like that, it's going to be a doable task there for Wilson, because he nearly run himself out of position. Good thing is he's going to have the pinky towards the right middle, but Chomp is far from his best form yet. So he needs to recover once again there, apply backspin on the cue ball. As you can see, Wilson is very comfortable in his chair, but you may have to get out of it soon. Not like that though. It's a brilliant shot by Chomp to make sure he is recovering here. And, well, I mean, right now, he will take an absolute masterclass of a performance and even more of a drop-off there from Chomp to make sure that we're going to see another Guy Wilson win over Chomp here. But, you know, when you are the world number 1, you've got the quality, obviously, and you just have to make sure that, you know, when you win frames and you're not playing well, it's just a sign of immeasurable quality that Chomp actually has to his name. Once again there, proving it very much on live TV here. Of course, the break of the high value that I was talking about was going to be a little shot at 147, but the fact that, you know, Chomp has taken the pink previously after running himself out of position on the black makes that impossible for him to achieve. So now focus on maybe a century break, but ultimately just winning this frame and getting the match over and done with there for him as soon as possible. And the win in this frame will make sure he's only 1 frame away from doing that. So it still hasn't been an hour since the match has actually started. Chomp is now 40 points clear with Wilson. So he's going to make that 47 with his black and still has 1 more red onto the top part of the table to try and go to. When I say top, it's just above the sort of pink spot. And he's now about to go 48 points clear. So 99 points on the table. It's still enough time for Chomp to potentially make an error there. Especially now as he goes in towards the reds. On towards the lower part of the table. And pretty much the black ball cushion. I think he can try and send the cue ball in towards the bunch now. When I say he can, he probably has to. I mean, he decided to do against that. Obviously not being too happy with the way his positional play has been so far, and it's played actually for a shot there in towards the right middle. Seen those missed there, and seen those missed by Chomp today, but not this time around. Once again, their lovely shot there, not in terms of getting the red in, but also developing 2 more reds there to his name, which surely are going to be enough for Chomp to take this frame in a very, very comfortable fashion there. He does seem to be a bit concerned with the way the cue ball is run, but I don't think I will be. He's still comfortably lined up for the shot off the red in towards the left court. I think the way he's looking at this cue ball is probably the fact that he was trying to develop another cluster of reds there. Hard middle pockets, ask Milkins. Well, you know, yeah. Milkins, I was very surprised actually. I've seen Guy Wilson's post on the Twitter page yesterday. I was very surprised to see the photo and the picture that they do ahead of the World Championship. I was very surprised to see Robert Milkins there. You know, you had the top 15 players, and that obviously was for the 2024 season, sorry. I was very surprised to see Robert Milkins there, as now Chomp is only a couple of shots away from making it. A gap of 3 frames to 0. And nice little shot there, once again getting the red in towards the right corner, and surely now no way back for Wilson in this frame, and you could argue no way back for him in the entire match here, scoring 1 point in the previous sort of 2 frames, and doesn't look like he's going to add anything to the counter either. Right now, just 1 more shot in towards the right middle, 1-4-6 stop break. Is it for this? Oh yeah, right now it is. Right now it is. I thought you were talking about, we've already seen one. Yeah, as I say, it could have been a chance of a maximum. You know, I did call that because I was surprised by the fact that, you know, neither of one of the players have actually potted a red so late in towards the frame there. But ultimately, Chomp run himself out of position on the black there, had to take the pink. One of those occasions, and to be fair, with the angle he's got right now, I'll be surprised if he goes for the black here, but he does go for the black. So maybe sacrificing a century break if he is going to miss the black. It's a similar one to the one he's missed in frame number 2 there. But this time, it's not going to repeat. But he is going to run himself out of position. So the break of 95 points. And he probably will go for an absolute smash on the table. So attention all pockets. He does try to calculate something. And then in the end, you just try and send it. And no real chance of making any of those reds. So 95 points of a break, and only 1 frame away there from Judd to making it a whitewash there. The first time that we're going to see a whitewash from Judd in a long time, potentially. And Guy Wilson has to find himself on the receiving end of things here, as Trump now leads by 3 frames to 0, and is only 1 frame away from making it into towards the quarterfinal stage, finally, for the first time, in towards the ranking events this season. Tom Ford has indeed managed to take a 2-1 lead up against Yuan Sijun in frame number 3. But Sijun is trying to respond there with a break of 15 points and counting now to his name. Being a high favourite in frame number 4 there. Of course, it's not going to be an intermission breaks of any sort there until we get at least to the quarterfinal stage, because that's when the format of best of 9 is going to be introduced. Therefore, players are going to have more time to actually play there. And that's when the intermission will be introduced there for him. And, well, until then, Chom can probably try and, focus on the task that he's got ahead of himself. Probably be very careful in terms of still trying to leave that open gaps for Guy Wilson. And one thing I will say about Chomp is he just has to bide his time. I know you will want to get this one quick, done and over with as soon as possible, but Wilson will as well. And Wilson will go, as we've seen in frame number 3 there, Wilson will go for anything that is available. And Trump just has to make sure he's going to be there when that actually happens. And, you know, 1, maybe 2 chances. And we're going to have the first quarter-finalist as the world number 1 there. So in the end, it wasn't quite a 146 top break. It was a 95. So Trump stopping 3 reds short there, which, if you do the maths, would have actually got him on the break of 146 points. In the end, we just wait for Trump to actually return back to his seat, and the action will resume on table number 2 here. Surprised that it's not the main table, to be fair, but I think that's going to be compromised by the fact that Sijia Wee and John Higgins are going to be performing on this stage as well as soon as the previous match will finish. So, still, Sijia Wee's actually finding himself in a brilliant form there, whitewashing Stephen Maguire and Kai Watchalong yesterday, and a couple of days before that. You know, Higgins managed to whitewash Luke Heathcote himself and came away with a very tight battle against Pang Jung-soo. Pang Jung-soo could have done better himself up against the Wizard of Wishaw. But instead, it's going to be the world number 6 that is actually going to appear at the last 16 players here for the first time since, obviously, we've seen him go quite deep in towards the British Open campaign, where he had a surprising loss to Anthony McGill there in the semi-final. And, after the match, he said himself he was running out of steam a little bit. And, of course, McGill was deservedly a winner of that particular encounter. But right now, it's all about the encounter in between Gary Wilson and Judd Trump now. And for now, there only seems to be one possible winner, especially with the way the opening 3 frames have gone. And Gary Wilson has to make sure he holds on at least now for one more frame there. And you know, get yourself a 3-1, 3-2 deficit, and all of a sudden, you can try and be back in this. But something tells me that that's not going to be the case there. And it's all about when, not if, we're going to see Judd Trump victorious and in towards the quarter-final stage. And now Wilson just has a little look to see where the Reds are positioned after a wonderful shot there from Trump. Compromising the position of the black though. But ultimately, with the way Wilson has been playing, it's probably not a tactical thing. But it's not going to be a massive problem for Trump at all. So Wilson just starting to see those Reds to try and send them in towards the right corner. And in the end, I think I'll have to settle for a safety shot here. Trying to send the red in towards the main bunch. I mean, he got that one pretty much full in the face there. So, could have actually had a double kiss at that time. But in the end, it's just an ordinary safety there from Wilson. And Trump will send the cue ball up the table once again there with a chance to spread the reds even more. And chance decline there from Trump. So whether that was intentional or completely accidental. But he hasn't really got the perfect traction on the cue ball either. He's left a shot on there for Wilson. He has to cue this one with the backspin though for the blue. It's one of those shots that I say, if Trump leaves him on there, he can miss it. And he'll miss it by an absolute mile. In fact, he's gone closer to potting the black there in towards the right middle. And he's actually gone towards potting the red. I think the same red is going to be possible there for Trump. So, very much, if not when then, or when not if, for Trump in terms of trying to get himself in towards the quarterfinal stage, especially if he can get through to this red, into the left middle. And the train of Gary Wilson seems to be just, I was going to say over, but then Trump misses that red in towards the left middle, pots the cue ball. So maybe the train is still alive there for Wilson. You know, Trump, as I say, has been, I don't want to say average, but has been way below the form that he can actually produce here. And I actually think it's been one of his weakest performances of the tournament. You know, he's been certainly playing better than that against Jackson Page, especially in the later stages. He struggled against Anthony McGill, but I can't really remember him playing shots like that there. And, well, a chance there for Wilson to try and finally get the break of higher than a single point. And he gets the cue ball down the table, trying to play for the black here. So equals the highest break of the entire match here. And tries to get the cue ball in towards the backspin here. So maybe he just has one more red available there in towards the left corner. I think he has to get some of distraction on the cue ball though. And I think he's going to be just about alright there, because he had to be careful of the line with the pink being in the way. And but as I say, you never know. It's a 3-0 lead there. It's not a 7-0 lead. And it certainly is recoverable there if Wilson starts to play well. But the problem of this lead is one mistake or one moment of brilliance there from Chomp, and it could all be over with no time at all. Or it could be one shot like that where Wilson tries to rush it a bit. You know, he could have taken a couple of more reds here. Instead, he's trying to develop the reds all in one shot there. And going to run himself out of position here. So potentially we'll take a shot in towards the yellow pocket there. But with so little distance in between the cue ball. And the red is going to be difficult to judge there. But he's managed to judge it to perfection there. Brilliant shot by Wilson. And this is better from him. You know, that's one way to actually recover from yourself from some difficulties previously. But it probably sums up the way he's been playing here. After a brilliant red in towards the yellow pocket, he missed the black off the spot there. One of the easiest ones you're actually going to miss in towards the right corner. The referee was already ready there to try and take the black and put it back on his spot. In the end, you'll probably have to do that later on for Judd if he manages to be successful on the break. Which, to be fair, he's going to be compromised quite a bit here. With both black and the pink being out of position. The blue is slightly above his spot as well. So Chomp has to go either to the bow colours or try and take the blue from the top side of it. Get himself lined up for the bottom reds once again here. And have himself, well, starts off a break, which still could be the one that actually gets him that quarter-final spot. He's now only 17 points behind with still 115 points on the table. So quite a few of those reds already have been eliminated. This time it's going to be the blue to take for Judd, and he's just having a look to see if it's going to make sense for him to try and go into the bunch right now. Don't think he's going to be expecting to have himself run out of position for the chance that was actually presented to him here. And certainly tried to apply topspin here, which I don't really understand there, because it nearly got him into massive trouble, but in the end, it's all right for a red in towards the right corner. You know, he basically applied the topspin to catch more of the black there, which was quite close to the bunch on the right-hand side. But in the end, had one red in towards the right corner, and at that time, it was everything they actually needed to get himself back up the blue there. So the pink has been freed up as well, which is going to be a nice little bonus for Chomp in the future. But it may actually not be that long of a time there that the pink is going to be available, because think with the way that those 7 reds have actually spread out, and only 2 of them have been released in towards the open play, I would expect Chomp to try and go into the main bunch once again here. GG's, yeah, say one shot from GG's. If right now Chomp tries to take the pink and develop the reds nicely, it is going to be GG's there, but I wouldn't say that just yet. As I say, Chomp has not been playing flawlessly himself. So once again, got himself lined up on one more shot here. So not being too reckless, not being too much in a hurry. Clearly sensing that the ending of the match is here. And just has to take his time. And as he runs himself on the wrong side of the pink, I think he'll take the last of the available reds in towards the right middle. Not from the perfect angle though. That's going to make the next shot a bit awkward there for him. Unless he plays for the blue there. Yeah, he got himself into a bit of a position there where he might get 16 extra points or so. But you know, he's probably going to be compromised on a shot to try and develop the remaining reds. And that is the case there. He's very straight on this blue. So if he is to send a cue ball into the cluster of 5 reds, he has to do it from the cushion. Therefore, the control is going to be less for him. And the chances of actually running himself out of position are going to increase here. So it's a shot that could win him the match. And it's a shot that could actually get Guy Wilson back in this frame. And, well, it's going to be the second option there for him, because he misses all of those reds. You know, as I say, when you're playing a shot off the cushion, you're going to have less of control there. And yeah, Trump has actually overdone it there, so he was clearly trying to generate too much power on it, and he's gone the wrong side of the bunch. And well, we're going to have a little bit of a safety battle, because Trump is obviously not going to want to develop the red that is currently sitting on the right hand side of the cushion, and therefore he's going to have himself to try and send a cue ball into the bunch of reds with just as little pace as possible, and to have Wilson to try and spread those out, which I'm pretty sure you'll be voluntarily doing there. And what a nice shot that is from Wilson. Not quite GG's yet if you play doubles like that. You know, it was a do or die shot once again there for him. If he missed that double by little margin, it would have been available there for Trump to take on. Instead, it's got himself another chance now to take the pink at least in towards the right middle. And then have himself lined up for one more red in towards the left corner. And I think at this stage you have to ask, is he actually going to require the red that is currently sitting on the right hand cushion there? So he's 8 points behind now, so he surely will actually need that red to get himself enough points clear. Especially with him taking those shots on the pink here. So this shot is now going to take him 1 point in behind Trump in terms of the current frame. And just having a look to see if he's got that red available in towards the left corner. I mean, surely if he was going to plan it, he was going to plan for it, he should have taken that look on the previous shot. But the plan does seem to be going straight in towards the corner pocket. And in it goes. Has to be the top side of the blue though. And he's going to be absolutely nowhere in terms of the positional sense. I mean, he's landed pretty much as awkward on the pink as possible, so he has to take the blue from the wrong side and use the ball cushion to his advantage. And yeah, he's going to be short on the pace on the cue ball once again there. I mean, the bounce that he got off the cushion is actually going to help. I thought he was going to be short on the pace, but the actual spin and the little bounce that he got off the cushion is going to help him here. Still quite too close to the cushion for the backspin, and recovers well though. Recovered well. Now 6 points clear. Make that 12 with the pink, and all about if you can do something with that red that's currently sitting on the right hand cushion. I think, the feeling that you will get is he's going to try and take it with another double there. Unless he plays a shot of the cue ball in towards that red right here, right now. He's got a chance for it, and he's missed it, and therefore sacrifices the position on the next color as well. Going to be very straight on one of those ball colors, especially if it's going to be the brown. Has got a little bit of the angle on the green though, but ultimately there's no way realistically there for him that he can have this shot lined up for a straight one. So anything but a double is going to be the end of a break there for him. And yeah, it's not going to be perfect for the double either. I mean, he's on top part of the red to try and take it in towards the left middle, and I have absolutely no doubt that he is going to be a double, but very surprised, very surprised to see that he actually isn't going to be a double. And it was a snooker attempt there from Wilson. In the end, it's not going to be a successful one, but he's still alive, and obviously doesn't seem to be throwing the toys out of the pram just yet. And Trump certainly trying to get this one won as soon as possible, but that actually might bite him now. Unless he gets the cover from the yellow, he's going to be in massive sort of trouble. And I think he does get the cover of the yellow. No, he doesn't. No, he doesn't. He's in trouble. He's in trouble. Wilson should take this red in towards the right middle. I don't know why the first shot from Trump was actually an attempt to try and pot that red. And, if Wilson controls the cue ball and gets himself lined up for one of those ball colours, he's going to be off for at least another frame here. Very surprising shot there from Trump. It's the one that I expected Wilson to be taking on when he was desperate for a frame win. But, you could argue that, sort of Trump can afford to do that. But he can't afford that more than 3 times. And he's just used one of those wild cards. And, he's 2 shots away now, Wilson, from making him pay for it. Very surprised with that short selection there from Trump. In the end, he didn't like it wasn't like he just played it with an attacking fashion. He played that one recklessly. He played that one with so much power that the red has gone into the jaws of the pocket and is bound by such margin that he's actually gone over the right middle. So it's gone pretty much 2/3 of the table length there. And, it was a straightforward finish for Wilson. Trump has to make sure he eliminates those shots when he's into the quarterfinals because, he managed to win 3 of the opening frames against Wilson. But he's not going to win 4 on the bounce here because it is going to be Gary Wilson with a break of 12 that is going to do him just about enough there to get him at least a frame on the board now. And he's still Judd Trump with a nice little cushion, but it's no longer a 3-0 lead. It is now Judd Trump 3, Gary Wilson 1. And he's still alive there. And from the experience that he had against Chang Min Yu, he certainly knows that it's not over until it actually is over there for him. And it's something that Tom Ford and Yuan Sejun will try and trail themselves there, as they still battle for their 4th frame win. Nothing to separate those two at the moment, with Tom Ford actually trying to be on the front foot and he's currently on the break there, still has enough points, realistically, to try and win the frame in the current visit to the table. But obviously going to be all about trying to make a total clearance, with him still being 30 points behind or so. But yeah, surprising, very surprising performance from Trump in that 4th frame. Had an early chance to try and finish it off there. Couldn't make it last, and in the end gave away a chance that was the only invitation Gary Wilson needed to produce by far the best performances of his match here. And another Gary Wilson off here. He's had some great comebacks already, including against Judd Trump at the tournament that I mentioned in China. And he's still very much alive here, at least for one more frame. It is a little bit of a lose from Trump. But let's see if he's going to turn into a 4-1 win there from Trump, or is it going to turn into something a lot bigger and a lot more dramatic there for him? As for now he can afford to do that, but probably not for too many times. Throughout this match here, Tom Ford misses the brown there, and that's probably going to gift a frame there to Yuan Sejun on table number 1 there. As we just have a look whilst the referee's still getting the balls racked up. It's a massive rest shot there for Sejun to try and take the brown in towards the pocket and just try and make sure he's going to be 2 frames each there going into frame number 5. But he's missed it. And just as the camera turns away there, Chop is looking that way as well. So has to be focused on his own performance though, as he is going to be the player to break off here up against Gary Wilson, and now needs an answer from himself really. Probably needs a brilliant performance to try and put all those struggles behind him and finally get the repeat of the opening frame where he produced a brilliant clearance of a 1-3-2 out there. Starts off with a decent break-off shot. Gives the turn back to Wilson. So left-hand side shot from Gary here, and very careful in terms of trying not to spread too many reds there for Trump to try and take advantage of, but he may actually play this not good enough there, Wilson, because I think there's going to be a red available for Trump. It's a difficult cut though, and it's the one that you would expect him to miss from the way he's been playing previously. And is he going to land on the colour though, because he made the red, and he is going to be on the yellow. I mean, it was a wasteful shot from Wilson's point of view. It was a nice little shot from Trump, but as I say, it's not going to be good enough now. He needs to make sure when he gets those chances and he gets those long pots, he actually has to make his opponent pay for those mistakes. That's something that we should see right here, right now there from the world number 1. So after careful consideration, obviously going to go for the green in towards its own pocket. And was always going to get that one. In terms of the reds there, he's got 1 red in towards the right corner. I think he's got 2 in towards the left corner. And that's probably going to be it there for him. So 11 reds underneath the pink. And for now he has to take 3 more reds out of the game first. And then a nice little shot from the blue. will probably get himself lined up for a nice little positional change. But I mean, once again there, Chomp is just trying to do too many things with too little shots to spare, because he clearly tried to power the cue ball from that red into the bunch of other reds, get a little touch of those, but in the end it just feels like it's going to cost him dearly. And not quite this time around. I thought he was going to miss the blue, and he just about rattles that one in. But, you know, Wilson could sense this one, and as long as he takes the chances that are there for him, he can still win this match, because Trump doesn't seem to be too comfortable with the way he's played ever since that opening frame masterclass. Now he's on 11 points. And the blue will make that 16. But once again there, being too straight on the blue, has to be lining up with a shot from the cushion there to get himself on the red. And he's having a look to see if that red will actually pass the black there in towards the right corner. And I think just about will. But it's one of those that you don't really want to test it out, especially after losing the previous frame. GG's Gitters. Well, Kevin clearly feels like, you know, he wants this one done, and you know, he clearly feels like Chomp is going to be victorious from this break. I still don't think so. I still think that Chomp at least has one more error inside of him, and for now he's got a massive task up ahead of him to try and get on the red now from this blue as he powers the cue ball in. So yeah, very similar to the shot that he's played in the previous frame. Once again, he misses the entire bunch, and it's going to be at least one more chance given away to Wilson. Just as I said, I didn't see Chomp going on a clean run there and making a break that was going to win him the frame and the match here. And Gary survives one more scare. This time, of course, it came from his mistake. And Chomp is going to send the cue ball in towards the yellow pocket, and he's actually going to play the safety shot quite nicely. So 123 points on the table, and 16 points is the gap for Judd Chomp over Gary Wilson, as he's got himself lined up for the next shot, and just having a look to see if anything is available there to him to find a little planting towards the right corner. I think the answer is going to be negative to that, and just send one of those remote reds in towards the bait bunch, try and develop a couple more there to his name. Or I think he took the more conservative approach, but once again there, I mean, he tried to take the conservative approach by doing little power on the shot there and trying to make sure that, you know, none of the reds are going to be available for Chomp. Instead, he's left the red on there for him. Very interesting to see if Chomp is actually going to take this red on there for him. He does seem to be caught in two minds here, which is never a good thing for you. You want to be focused on that single shot here. I think he's got the line for the cue ball to run safe. And the red is not going to be potted though. And is he going to be available for Wilson? He certainly is going to be available for Wilson to play. As I say, I think it was a bad thing that Chomp was thinking about a safety and an attacking shot at the same time. In the end, let's see if Wilson can make this red in. It's still not an easy one. The cube was quite close towards the right middle. And the angle is going to be against Wilson on this shot. Yeah, it's a really difficult cut there for him, but it's the one that can give him all the confidence in the world if he makes it. But it was an if, and doesn't look like it is going to be put into the life prospect there from Wilson, because he's left the same red away there to Chomp. And as I said, I always thought that Chomp was going to need the second chance. I don't think he'll need the third chance. And as he gets himself lined up on the pink here, and I did say that he wasn't going to need the third chance, but what enough he's played here. He's clearly misjudged the pace of the cue ball to try and get himself lined up on the black here. Instead, he has to take the pink in towards the right middle, and by doing that, he basically leaves himself with absolutely no reds to play for. Once again, he has to go for an absolute monumental backspin on the cue ball. I mean, if he commits to it and he makes it through, fair play there, but don't think he's been playing well enough for it. And he's missed the ping there, but hold on, where's the ping going? Ooh, could have fluked it. Instead, he's going to leave away there a red to Gary Wilson. So he's managed to get the backspin on the play, but in the end, he missed the ping there for him. Nearly fluked it into the same pocket. And, it's the second chance not taken there from Chomp. And it's a chance given away to Wilson. The problem is, of course, with him still having to go for the black and the pink both being compromised slightly. It's not like Wilson has got the easiest of shots now. He can get himself on the black right now, but he only has one more red available to his name. And after that, it's all going to be a bit of an issue there at that time. So, plays the red in and takes the black in towards the right corner. So right now we have 107 points on the table. I think we're going to be in the 99 zone. If Wilson has himself lined up on this red, and he hasn't. So I think he took that one a bit too well. Would have liked to see a bit more emotion there for him. And obviously, of course, in the first place, Don missed that positional shot. And the break of 8 points. And once again, it goes back to the safety play. So we're not yet in the 99 zone. And Trump mysteriously somehow still finds himself ahead by points. And just as I say that, he catches the pink with the cue ball whilst trying to get it up the table. The good news is the pink is now in available play. The bad news is Wilson's shot on the safety is going to be a lot simpler. Don't think he's going to have any reds available there to him, to be fair. And on the left-hand side of the table, you can take the red on and try and send it into the other one. I think he's looking at the potential blind chance there for him. But this, for me to actually consider that for an actual shot there, there's too much of a distance in between the two reds. So Wilson, I think, going for the right shot there and trying to send the cue ball into the safe area. And now it is back to Judd Chomp and his performance. Safety play has been way below average so far for Chomp, especially on his last shot, being quite lucky not to give a red there to Wilson. But, he's done horribly with the reds there, but the line from the cue ball seems to be very, very nice there. And what a shot he's just played, He's left all of those reds over the left corner pocket for Wilson, but in the end getting the cue ball in behind the yellow and probably forcing Wilson into a bit of a miracle shot realistically. He's not got any reds on the cushion, and he's got a red over the left corner pocket that he can't afford to leave to Chomp. He's already 9 points down. He's 3-1 down. So just one shot there from Chomp can put him as a massive favourite for this frame here, without the shot even being played there from Wilson, because he clearly can see in his face that he hasn't got a clue which shot he has to take on. And, the idea can certainly be there, but the execution has to be perfect as well. So, massive shot now, and it's probably, with the way I see it, is going to be his last shot of the match here. And I think my prediction may as well just be right now, because he's left a wide room there for Chomp. He probably can't do anything about it, and it was just such a perfect shot from Chomp from 2 points of view. One, getting the cue ball in behind the yellow, and two, having the red over the left corner pocket. So surely now, chance number 3 is going to be taken by Judd Chomp. But it didn't start off too well there. Just about gets the cue ball to have a straight line on the blue. And of course still has that red over the left corner pocket as his backup option. So play through the cue ball now and try and get it down the table. Think he's not going to have enough of the traction though, so he may still have to take that red that I mentioned previously. And get himself on the blue. I don't think he can risk to go for the black just yet, because there's such a tight room to get the cue ball in between those two reds, to have a clear path on towards the black into the right corner. And in the end, he's now 15 points clear here and trying to finally finish off the job here. Has got a straightforward red now to try and take with the rest, but all about trying to get the cue ball onto the next shot there on the next color, and he run himself absolutely nowhere. I mean, I did say it was a little gap to have the cue ball set up for the black, but he's run absolutely nowhere near it, and now has got a long distance to try and take this blue on. I mean, this is missable. The way he has to plant his arm as well is awkward. And once again there, just produces a test for him out of nothing. But he manages to complete the test, to be fair to him. So, fair play there. Managed to recover really well. And he's now 21 points clear with 91 to say. But ultimately, he's still alive on the break here. One more shot with the rest. And surely he's not going to try and do the same thing there. GG's now. I wouldn't say that just yet. I would like him to get it over and done with. But I do think it's just a matter of time here. As I probably won't say that now because he's just nearly missed the easy red with the rest there. But ultimately run himself completely out of position on all the colours. So, yeah. I didn't want to say GG's for this exact reason. Because I do have this weird tendency of, as soon as I say he's won or he's lost there, that player seems to bottle it at the end or produce an ultimate comeback for the ages. So, easy taking another blue now, but this one is so much more difficult there for him. Instead, he tried to use the wild card of the previous shot and get the cue ball in behind the yellow. And what a shot this is. What a shot that is from Chomp. It almost is better than the previous one because of the position of the cue ball and the way the Reds are set up right now. Of course, Wilson has got an attempt now to try and roll the cue ball in towards one of those Reds on the lower part of the table. But ultimately, I think he's left that red available for Judd here. Maybe he'll take another one in towards the middle though. Because I can just see him getting complete stun on the cue ball. And just saying to Wilson, if I'm going to leave a red away to you, it's going to be the one that I'm actually playing. But he's not going to leave a red away because he is Judd Chomp and he can find those spots out of absolutely nowhere. Brilliant once again there from Judd. And from the fourth time of asking, surely is going to be the end of the match here. And, Gary Wilson managed to do well in the previous frame. That probably was his best performance in the match. And apart from that, it has been a bit of a dreadful stuff there from Wilson. You'll know that better than anyone else. But ultimately, it was unacceptable for him to go 3-0 down, especially with the way below average that Chomp has been playing ever since that 1-3-2 clearance. Needs to improve next year. Absolutely. I mean, best of 9 is going to be advantage there to Chomp because he is a player that can find and click into that form. But I think if he was playing someone like John Higgins or Si Xiaowei or Gary Wilson on their good day, he would have lost at least sort of 2 of those opening 4 frames, and therefore this match would have been far from over. But of course, Chomp has not been playing himself very well recently, and the fact that he's managed to recover and get himself within a couple of shots from the quarterfinal stage is already a good sign of an improvement. Right now, he gets himself on the red. That is going to be the penultimate shot now, which he manages to take. So now all about this frame ball. Straightforward black off the spot there, which you're not going to miss if you're Judd Chomp. And he is officially, ladies and gentlemen, in the quarterfinal stage. Still an entertaining match. I wouldn't say it was brilliant high quality there, but it was good fun to watch. Certainly has been played in attacking fashion, which is always lovely to see. And hopefully that tendency will continue with the next match being Si Xiaowei against John Higgins. And it certainly is GG's now. And it is frame and the match for Judd Chomp. And the break of 40 points. He can still get it somewhat close to the break of 70 plus. As he still has 2 reds at the time that I was speaking. Slightly fortunate today. Thanks for covering. Happy GG. Yes, absolutely. So if you want to tune in for Si Xiaowei against John Higgins, feel free to do that. Or if you can't do it, thank you very much for tuning in already today. It's been fun to watch, that's for sure. Not necessarily the best quality as I mentioned, but still loads of entertainment there from Chomp as he gets himself on towards the yellow. And nice little shot to have himself lined up. So play through the yellow there to get himself lined up for the green is going to be the only little struggle that he might have with those 6 colours. And apart from that, it's all going to be a little bit of a practice stuff there for him. So you can get a break of 83 points, which is going to be his 3rd highest break of the match, which, when you've played the way I described, he hasn't played too well. He still had breaks of 132, 95, and potentially 83 here, realistically. as he gets himself on the pink, and he's actually going to get the pink as well. So now all about this black in towards the right corner for a perfect finish for Judd out there. And he just tried to roll this one with absolutely no pace. And in the end, it is going to be an 83 points clearance to end this match with Gary Wilson. And it's a revenge taken for Wuhan Open. Judd will take the quarterfinal spot here at the Home Nation Series and will have to face his opponent there. And, he's the first quarterfinalist to actually book himself into that stage, and he'll face the winner of Si Jiahui against John Higgins. That match is going to come very, very shortly there, so feel free to tune in and stay for some more action there on table number 1. But for now, thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you around for more action featuring Judd at the later stages of the Northern Ireland Open. Thank you very much, and speak to you later. Thanks for watching.